Thank you. Well, I was born with an unusual visual condition called achromatism, which basically means that I don't see color. I see things in grayscale. So as a child, I tried to ignore the existence of color, but it was quite challenging to ignore color because even if you don't see color, you can't ignore that color exists because people who see color keep mentioning it every single day in daily elements such as red cross, pink panther, green peas, yellow submarine, Bluetooth, green card, yellow pages, James Brown, it's in his last name, or Greenland. So the names of color kept appearing during my life, so it was difficult to ignore color. Also, when color is used as a code, it can be confusing. Sometimes hot water and cold water is only expressed through color codes. Also, maps use color. This is fine, but if I go to Tokyo, I can get easily lost because some maps use color codes, depend on color perception. Also, when I was trying to learn the colors of flags, I had this situation. So 3 countries share exactly the same flag. Or if someone would ask me, have you seen a man with ginger hair, blue eyes, and dressed in pink? I would have no idea, because the only information I get here is that the man has hair, that he has eyes, and that he's not naked, basically. So I wanted to have a sense of color because it's a social element. And then I tried to understand what color is. And I was really interested in Isaac Newton's theory of color and sound. He thought that color and sound were connected, and he was right. Both color and sound are a frequency. They both vibrate. So 20 years ago, I created a system with Adam Montandon in order to transform the frequencies of color into sound. And we created a system in 2003 with a webcam, a computer, and a pair of headphones. And this suddenly allowed me to listen to the colors around me. So these are the sounds of red, for example. So when I hear this sound, I know it's red. If it goes a bit higher, it's orange. Then it goes to yellow. So I slowly memorized the sound of each color, and then I was able to distinguish all the colors around me through the frequencies of sound. There was a point when I was able to sense all the visual spectrum through sound, but I didn't see why I should stop in the visual spectrum. There's more colors that exist that technology can detect, like infrareds and ultraviolets. So I included infrared and ultraviolet perception in the system, so this suddenly allowed me to also sense if there's infrareds or ultraviolets around me. Infrared perception, for example, allows me to know if there's movement detectors in a room, so I can go in a shop or a bank and tell if the alarms are on or off. In most cases, they're off, so those infrared detectors are actually not on. Ultraviolet perception allows me to feel if it's a good day or a bad day to sunbathe. So if I go outside and I sense high levels of ultraviolet, I avoid the sun because this is a color that can damage our skin. So going beyond the limits of human perception has allowed me to sense colors like other species, like snakes or bees. And this has connected me with other species because I share a sense with them now. Now, the system 20 years ago was not very practical. It was big, so I tried to make it smaller and until I decided to create an antenna that would have a chip, and that this chip would allow me to hear the vibrations of color. But then when the antenna was done, I wanted to have it implanted in my head. So I went to the doctor and I said I wanted to have this antenna implanted inside my head. And the doctor said, sorry, we don't do this here. We don't do antenna implants, and you won't find a doctor willing to do it unless you go through bioethical committees. So I presented the surgery to a bioethical committee, and they said it was not ethical to have this antenna implanted in my head for 3 reasons. One, because it's not a pre-existing body part, so if it was a leg or an arm, they would find it ethical. The second reason, because it's not a pre-existing sense. Sensing infrareds and ultraviolets is not human, so they didn't find it ethical. And the third reason is that they were very worried about the image the hospital would have if someone came out with an antenna sticking out from the head. So they said no to the surgery, not officially, but then they helped me find a doctor that did the surgery anonymously. So this is my head facing down, and then hair was removed, skin was reduced, and then my head was drilled 4 times. So there's 4 different implants. 2 implants are to hold the structure of the antenna. The third implant is this chip, a piezo that vibrates inside my head. So if there's red in front of me, the vibration of red makes the piezo vibrate, and then I hear the vibration of red. And the 4th implant was added later, which is a Bluetooth connection that allows me to connect to the internet. So I can then receive colors from other parts of the world. Instead of receiving the colors in front of me, I can receive colors from the internet. So the antenna and my head took 2 months to merge. So this is now part of my skeleton. The antenna has merged with my bone, with my skull. So this makes me officially taller as well, because this is part of my body. And I had to get used to the new height. Now, when it comes to security, well, having internet in my body means that I can receive colors from other people. I've given permission to 5 people around the world that can send colors to my head using a mobile phone. So they have an app, and they can use the mobile phone to just capture the images in front of them, and this can be sent to my head, and then I can suddenly be sensing colors from New York or from Australia live. So this is a way of sharing a sense, using the internet not as a tool or a communication system, but as a sensory extension. This can also be used to connect to satellites. So I've been doing it, connecting my head to NASA's International Space Station, and this allows me to sense colors from space, because there's color sensors in ISS, so this allows me to perceive extraterrestrial colors, and there's lots of ultraviolets that I never sense here, but that I sense when I connect my head to the station. I call this becoming a senstronaut, having senses in space without having to physically go there. So this is a possible way of exploring space. Instead of physically going to space, we could all have senses connected to space, and this would allow us to be here 24 hours, but have a sense that is 24 hours in space. So yeah, this has one big main risk, which is that I can be physically hacked. So if there's a hacker in this room, this person could maybe easily try to find how to send colors to my head, and then this person could start sending pink or yellow all day, and then this could alter my perception. The main disadvantages of being a cyborg is that you can be physically hacked. Through all these years, it only happened once that someone without permission sent colors to my head, so I was physically hacked once, but I liked it. It was a interesting. I actually enjoyed that someone was able to do it. But in order to avoid this from happening, last year I decided to stop these internet connections and start using the blockchain. So now, instead of using an app, in order to send colors to my head, you need to do it through an NFT. So there's an NFT that has unlockable content, and this allows you to click the unlockable content, and then via the blockchain, you can send colors to my head. So there's only one way now of sending colors to my head, which is through the blockchain. So this makes it much more secure. And I think that in the future, if there's many more people with internet connections inside the body, they'll start using also blockchain in order to connect their bodies to the internet, because it's much safer, and you can know who is sending colors to my head. In my case, I know who is sending colors to my head because I can see who bought the NFT. I see this as cyborg art because it's the art of creating new senses, new organs, and designing perception of reality, but it's also a very social, it has social consequences. It can affect society in deep ways. Cyborg comes from 2 words, cybernetic organism. It was invented by this man. He created this word because it's different from bionic. Bionic is someone who has modified their body with electronics. Mechatronic is someone that has modified their body with mechanical parts. But a cyborg includes the brain. So it's someone whose body and brain has been modified by electronics. And I think most people in the world are already psychological cyborgs in a way. Many of you are already psychologically merged with technology. You can notice this in language. So 20 years ago, many people would say, my mobile phone is running out of battery. But now many people say, I'm running out of battery, as if I was running out of battery. So when you say, I'm running out of battery, you are already talking about technology in first person. So in a way, you are already psychologically merged with cybernetics. So you are already a psychological cyborg. This is my brain. So my brain has changed since I hear colors. I feel no difference between the software and the brain anymore, and I feel no difference between the antenna and any of my other organs. So that's why I identify myself as a cyborg, because I feel that I'm not using or wearing technology. I feel that I am technology. And that's what I tried to explain to the UK government in 2004, because I tried to renew my UK passport in 2004, and they said there was a problem with the photo. So there's a law that says electronic equipment is not allowed on passport photos. I replied saying that this is not an electronic equipment, but a new organ, a new body part, and I told them that I identified as a cyborg. So they replied saying, no, sorry, please remove the antenna from the photo. You can't appear in a picture with an antenna. So it became like a battle with the UK Passport Office, and in the end, they accepted the picture after a few months. They accepted that the antenna was an organ and was a part of my body, so they accepted me to appear in the passport with the antenna. This helps a lot at airports. Security controls at airports are very, well, it's very challenging when I go to security controls. So this helps me a lot, because if they stop and they start questioning, if I show them the passport picture, they have to accept that this is part of my image, official image, and therefore part of my body. I'm also in conversations with the Swedish government, because the materials that I used to create the antenna are Swedish, so I'm telling them that I am Swedish, because part of my body is Swedish. So I think I should be entitled to become a Swedish citizen. Now, to become Swedish, you need to live in Sweden for 5 years, but I'm telling them that Sweden has been living in my body for more than 5 years, so I think I should be entitled to become Swedish. They still haven't replied, but maybe in the future they will. So in my case, hearing color has changed many things. I can now dress in a way that maybe it doesn't look good, but it sounds good, because I can combine different colors that sound like different notes. So I can dress in C major, in F minor. I can design clothes that sounds like a song. These are examples of models wearing different melodies that have been transposed into color. I can also paint a space so that it sounds good. I can paint a living room. If it's pink, yellow, and blue, it sounds C major. If the floor is all red, it creates a sound, a very profound sound to the house, so it gives a profound feeling in the house. Ceilings, if they're black and white, then they're silent, so if I lie down, then there's silence. So it has changed many aspects of my life. Also, I can compose music by looking at things instead of playing an instrument. Simply by looking at different vegetables or fruit, I can compose music, and this allows me now to well, just to walk around supermarkets and enjoy music, because supermarkets have many, many different colors that are explosions of sound. Art galleries have completely changed, because now I can hear Picasso, I can hear Dali, I can hear Andy Warhol. All painters have become composers. These are examples of how paintings sound like when I look at them. And also I can paint what I hear. If I listen to music, each note relates to a color, so I can paint music on a canvas. This is an example of Mozart's Queen of the Night, from the first note to the last, and this is Baby Baby by Justin Bieber, which looks very different because he used very different notes. Also speeches, because when we speak, we use different frequencies, can be transposed into color. So just this one sense has changed so many things, because color is everywhere. So it has changed completely my perception of reality. Just this little simple technology has changed many aspects, even food, because when I look at food, I can compose music with food, and I can literally eat a song, depending on how I display the food on the plate. And this allows me to collaborate, for example, with other people, like with this chef in Barcelona. We created this plate that you have the food on the plate. There's a sensor inside the plate, and then when you turn around the plate, you can hear the music. So you can go to this restaurant and ask for some Vivaldi as made dish or some Lady Gaga dessert. So you can choose which song you want to eat, and then the chef creates the melody. So the chef becomes a composer, and a new type of gastronomy can be experienced, which is sonochromatic gastronomy. And one of the biggest changes is the way I perceive people, because when I look at you, I can listen to the colors of your face. So I really enjoy creating sound portraits, which is basically writing down the sound of the eyes, lips, skin, and hair, and then sending an MP3 of the sound of the face, so that some people can then listen to themselves. One of the first ones I did was of King Charles. I asked him if I could listen to his face, and this was his reaction when I asked him. He wasn't very sure what I was asking. This was one of the first ones I did. This was in 2005, and since then I've been doing many different faces, and we all sound different. Like Judi Dench has silent hair. Marina Abramovic has very low frequencies, so she has a rhythmic face. Robert De Niro has a melody in his lips because he has different shades of red. Bono had very loud glasses. Philip Glass sounds very microtonal, so we all sound different, and it's exciting to see that Even twins can sound slightly different. Even the left eye from the right eye can sound slightly different. So basically, new senses will create new cultures. This is just one example, hearing color. But imagine the amount of senses that will be created in the near future, how people will start merging with artificial senses, and this will create new types of perception of reality, and then this will create new cultures around it. There's many senses that we don't have, but that other species have. And I think we will start by picking up senses that other animals have. It's already happening. I'm not the only cyborg. There's many others that have already merged with technology. For example, inspired by infrasound perception, Moon Ribas has created an implant that allows her to feel earthquakes. So she has 2 implants in her feet, and whenever there's an earthquake in the world, she feels a vibration in her feet. So she has the seismic sense. She's connected to online seismographs, so she also has the risk of being physically hacked. She also uses the internet connection to receive moonquakes. So there's also a seismograph on the moon, so she can also pick up the moonquakes and then she can feel them in her feet. So she's also a senstronaut. Also inspired by the communication of elephants. Elephants can communicate by clicking on the floor, and then they can feel the vibration far away through bone conduction. We created a project in Brazil, in Sao Paulo, where we collaborated with dentists, and a tooth was placed in my mouth, another one was placed in Moon's mouth, and then whenever I clicked, she would receive a vibration in her mouth, and whenever she clicked, I would receive a vibration in my mouth. So we both learned the Morse code, and then we were able to communicate by a Morse code from mouth to mouth. We call it the transdental communication system, and then we demonstrated it in Sao Paulo. We were in different rooms, and people were giving us words, and then we were sending the words to each other, so in order to demonstrate the communication system. It works through Bluetooth, so it's a Bluetooth tooth that allows you to communicate from mouth to mouth. Other animals have echolocation very well developed. They can feel presence without having to use eyes. So this was developed by also Joe Dagny, 2 implants here and at the back that allowed him to feel presence around him. So this gave him echolocation. Other animals have a sense of magnetism that we don't have, sensing if something is magnetic or not. So we created this hair implant that allows you to feel if something is magnetic or not. So when you have it implanted, if you get close to something magnetic, the hair gets stuck. So then if you walk past the refrigerator, the hair definitely gets stuck. So it's a very simple strip of hair that is magnetic that allows you to gain magnetoception. Other qualities, this is not a sense, but it's a quality that other species have. Some species can create light in total darkness. We can't. We have to use our mobile phones to create light. So a way of creating bioluminescence is by having a light tooth. We created this light tooth also in Brazil, and it was installed in my mouth, and this allowed me to create light in total darkness. So when I clicked, I would have light. But there was a problem that when I was eating, the light was going on and off all the time. So I had it removed, and we're still trying to find ways of turning it on and off without turning it on and off involuntarily. Then there's also geomagnetism, sensing where the north is. This is something that many birds can feel, but we don't. We don't feel the north. We can tell where the north is if we look at the sun. We can tell by looking at things, but we don't feel it inside. So we created 3 different implants with a small compass implanted at the back of the knee that allows to feel the magnetic north. This suddenly allowed to feel the subtle changes in the subway. For example, when you're in the subway, you don't realize how much you move. So you could feel how much you moved. It also creates new types of memories, because then you remember things by the position, if it was northeast or southwest. So it creates new types of memories, this type of sense. Then there's also many weather sensors that can feel the weather in a very precise way. And this was an interest of Manel de Aguas. He wanted to feel the weather inside his body, so he created these 2 fins that allow him to feel temperature, humidity, and atmospheric pressure in a very precise way. So he's literally a weatherman, and through these fins, he can predict and feel if it's going to rain or not, because he can feel changes in humidity and pressure, especially. The surgery was done in Japan, because in Europe we couldn't find anyone that would want to implant the fins, so we had to go to Japan. Other very more simple ways of gaining a new sense, for example, having the sense of speed, is by creating earrings. So this is not an implant, it's just a piercing that allows you to feel movement without having to use your eyes. It's a very simple way of starting with new senses, because it's just a pair of earrings and it costs maybe $2 to create. It's not expensive material. It's detecting movement, and then depending on the interval, you can slowly gain and understand how fast something is moving in front of you. Also, if you turn around these earrings, then you can have retroception. This is something that many cars can do now. Many cars can sense what's behind, but we have all our senses focused on what's in front of us. So by having these earrings facing at the back, you can gain retroception. And the last sense that I'm developing is the sense of time. We all have a sense of time, but we don't have an organ specifically designed for the sense of time. So this is an organ that will allow to feel the rotation of the planet in your head. So it's basically a crown that is placed between the skin and the bone, and a point of heat takes 24 hours to go around the head. So if you feel the heat here, it means it's 12 o'clock solar time in London. Here it means it's in Iceland, New York, so you can feel time going by. So when your brain gets used to the 24-hour cycle, then you'll have a perfect perception of time, and then here's when you can start creating time illusions. So the aim of this project is to see if we can control our perception of time. And if you want a situation to last longer, you can program it to go a bit slower so that you feel that time is stretching, or if you want time to go faster, you can make it go a bit faster. So the aim of this project is to take Albert Einstein's theory of time relativity into practice and create time illusions so that we can decide how long we want the situation to last. And the youngest cyborg is now Paul Lombarte. He's developing different projects where he has electrodes and he's sending his heartbeats to the internet. So he's created this system, like a second heart, where he can use his heartbeats to activate external devices like lamps. So there are lamps that go on and off depending on his heartbeats, and also clocks that go advancing depending on his heartbeat. So there's different galleries that have his heart clock, and then people can go to the gallery and they see the clock going at the speed of the artist. So the artist might be in Europe, but the clock might be in the US, but the clock will be advancing at the speed of the artist because he has his heartbeats streamed live on the internet. He also created an NFT that allows you to buy his heartbeats. So you can also sell heartbeats as a work of art now through NFTs, and this unlockable content allows you to see his heartbeats live. I bought his heartbeats, and he bought my connection to the head a few years ago, so that was an interchange that we did last year. But now they can be bought by other people. So these are not AI examples. They're more specifically AS examples. It's not artificial intelligence, it's more specifically artificial senses. It's not something that we listen every day. We are used to hearing artificial intelligence every day, but not artificial senses. It's different. If the antenna was telling me the names of colors, this would be AI. So if the antenna was telling me red, green, blue, that would be AI. So technology would be giving me intelligence, but I didn't want technology to give me intelligence. I wanted technology to give me a sense, to give me stimuli. So when you merge with an artificial sense, the intelligence will slowly be created by your brain. If you merge with artificial intelligence, the intelligence will be given to you by the machine. So it's very different if you merge with AI than if you merge with AS. And the reality that these new senses create are not augmented reality, and they're not virtual reality. We like to call it revealed reality. It's basically technology that reveals elements that exist, but that humans have never been able to sense, like earthquakes, the weather, infrareds, ultraviolets. So it's simply a way that technology can reveal natural elements. A few years ago, well, 12 years ago, we created the CYBORG Foundation also to help other people become cyborgs and also to defend cyborg rights. The cyborg rights are very simple. There's just basically 5 or 4. It's just morphological freedom, the freedom that we think we should all have to decide which organs and senses we want to have as a species. It's a freedom that we still don't have. All these surgeries have been done by anonymous doctors or nurses. and it's an underground movement. It's not officially accepted yet by bioethical committees, and there's still no cyborg clinics, but there might be some in the near future. Organic naturalization is basically that we think that these implants should be considered organs, not devices. So if you feel that these implants are part of you, they should be accepted as part of us, not as something external. Also, that no one should force us to remove these implants. It has happened with Manel de Aguas, the one with the weather sensors. He was asked to remove his fins if he wanted to continue working in his. He worked in a museum, so he was asked to remove his implants. We think this should not happen. We should all have the right to remain with our own new implants. And then the bodily sovereignty is the one related to security. No one should be allowed to enter our bodies without permission. And this is now, if someone hacks you physically, then this person is entering your body without permission. There are still no laws regulating this, but I'm sure there will be soon, because there will be more people with internet in their bodies, so there needs to be a protection for citizens that are merged with internet. In the near future, we might see new senses that will change society in a huge way. Night vision will be one of the biggest changes, because if we all had night vision, all these lights would be off. Lisboa at night would be completely dark. We would be able to see each other without having to use artificial light. So it will be much better for the environment, because we won't have to spend so much energy creating artificial light, and it will change many aspects of our daily day. Also, thermoregulation will be a huge change. If we are able to create an organ that can regulate our own temperature, we won't have to use air conditionings and heaters. So instead of changing the temperature around us, we will be able to change our own temperature. So the aim of cyborg technology is that we should slowly be able to design ourselves instead of designing our surroundings. So if we all started designing ourselves, we won't have to change the planet so much. So instead of changing the planet in order to adapt it to ourselves, we should be doing the opposite. That's all about the cyborg philosophy behind it. We should be changing ourselves in order to adapt ourselves to the planet. Just to end, this is also a social project, as I said, because the antenna is very visible. So for the last 20 years, I've been stopped in the street by strangers every day asking what this is. And it's interesting to see how social reaction has changed through the last 20 years. In 2004, everyone thought it was a light. So they would ask me if I could turn on the light. 2005, 6, they thought it was a flexible microphone. In 2007, 8, people started to think it was a hands-free telephone, because many people had hands-free telephones. In 2009, people thought it was a GoPro cam, that I was filming them, so they would wave, thinking that I was filming. In 2012, people asked me if I had something to do with Google Street View, and if I was streaming the streets. In 2013, 14, if I had something to do with Google Glass, because there were glasses with technology. In 2015, 16, some children shouted at me, Pokemon, and they tried to catch me. And lately also, some children asked if there was some kind of selfie stick attached to the head, because there's been many different types of selfie sticks. So it's changed through the years. Social reaction keeps changing. People still don't think that it's a new sensory organ, but I think that's the next stage, that maybe in the future people will see more people with new sensory organs, and then people will just stop and ask, what are you sensing, instead of thinking that it's something else. So the future is already happening now. There's some of the examples of people that are already voluntarily merging with technology, and this will create new challenges related to security and related to how we interact with each other. Thank you very much.